pieces of a board game. Interesting about museums all over the world is that we all made the same kind of tools. Awls or hairpins, combs, necklaces, rings. Here implements made out of local resource, guess what? Lava. And I bet they had obsidian knives. Wonder what this is here. Spit for roasting meat. But what was it made of? Devices that would be used to cut turf. For example, this is the blade, and down there you put your foot to get cutting downward leverage. And then these spade-like things were used to disconnect it from the earth. Medieval keys, as well as locks somehow. Huh, that's interesting. Medieval scissors. Decorations. These were brooches. I think a brooch is worn over the chest, maybe to hold garments together. Primitive societies is so telling. These is tongue-shaped brooches, but I would rather see them as some kind of shield. Unlit items are just riding vehicles, like stirrups. Remember how important those were. Bits. Lights, I'm guessing, give an outline of the Icelandic fishing boat. Some components look like they're very nicely finished. But look at also that stones were used as the weights. How different were the looms of different societies, and yet all performing essentially the same function. It would be interesting to know what the history of the loom was. How did it spread across the world, or was there spontaneous creation of it? These are some of the devices used, shuttles for the loom, the weights that we see there. Carvings from churches that in the main are no longer extant because they were reused in other buildings. Interesting that they did not have any inherent cultural respect for these. These are the end pieces of the scabbards. Definitely we're talking the Iron Age. This illustrates that much of the material that was brought in the Middle Ages was a mix of what was indigenous and what was brought from Europe. But much of it was preserved under the farms that were covered in volcanic ash after volcanic eruptions. Maybe one of the gloves that the fishermen from France and England prized that was made by the local ladies. A small anvil. It looks like it's made of wood. I don't know. Example of some of the items that were imported from Europe in the 15th century. Embroidery work on silk epitomized the caliber of the goods that the wealthy would own, but the poor would never even see. The map illustrating the spread of the Black Disease of 1402 to 1404. Around 1540, the religious power shifted from Catholicism to Lutheranism, the church ultimately owning almost 50% of the land. There's, of course, the art created by the church or promoted by the church, sponsored by it, not only for the purpose of beauty, but primarily for the purpose of learning or education, or let's put it in an honest way, indoctrination of the poor, literate people. A concept fully developed by the Catholics, of course. Thought that the churches of Iceland had their timbers carved in the main. Almost always the doorposts were carved, as are these two. Probably no greater conspiracy on this planet now and ever in the past than that between government and religion. This is a baby. Mass weapons of destruction. Shows the distribution of people in Iceland in 1703. Having just come from the National Iceland Museum, and we're now passing below the lake that we've been to several times, en route to the Penis Museum. Oh, well, all right. The Reykjavik Phallological Museum. But we all know what it means. Looking again back down that lake, I'll just pan about this large and beautiful park in Reykjavik. I don't know how much time of the year it's pleasant enough to enjoy, but it's a beautiful place. And a rose. Little mini trampolines. But here's something that's a first of its kind that I've seen, period, anywhere, particularly in a park. But it's a rope maze that you can climb through. Kind of like a consolidated ropes course. On my walk to the museum, a pretty statue of Icelandic horses. What's also interesting is the number of RVs I've seen. There are only so many places you can go. Certainly not a big time frame in Iceland, but there are a lot of RVs. Maybe a good explanation or a symbol that helps us explain the simplicity, the starkness of Iceland architecture and art. And that is this tree devoid of its branches. Even the ones that look like they might have survived have been cut off. Not broken off, but cut off. There are no leaves. Simplicity. Is it dead or alive? We don't know. I have a rule when I go into museums. Now I tend to only take videos of that which I haven't seen, that which is novel. And that means you end up cherry picking what you record. For those designers who are truly obsessed, or have a client who is truly obsessed, there are these accoutrements for your home. This is a sperm whale penis, reminding me very much the front end of a jet when it's going to have to refuel. Other to put us all through the detail here. Suffice it to say, this is different animals. But what's interesting is that it shows the similarity of we mammals. When it comes to size, it's probably a good thing to be of a different species than the other guy if he's bigger. It's hard to imagine is one whose life is obsessed with this. But on the other hand, it would be hypocritical to argue that one should not pursue what they have a passion for. It would be interesting to know, I haven't got the time in my life, how the penis evolved, what its roots were. A peniscape. And a box of them. And the vegetarian slant. Art can depend on perspective. The imagination of people is interesting.